Chairing this rally, make some noise for Delia!
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. We all know why we're here. We know why we're here, and it's very important that we're here. We have to remember that communities up and down this country, working class communities, are now in a place of crisis. They're waking up to bills that have been hiked up 54%. Low earners, people on benefits, how are they supposed to pay these bills? It's not possible. We've had 12 years of austerity. 12 years of austerity, and this is the continuation. And I'm delighted to be here representing People's Assembly, because you know something? People's Assembly are the ones that brought this cost of living crisis to everybody's attention. And this is the third protest that we have done. And there aren't millions here today, but guess what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because those people who can't even afford the bus fare to get down here, they need to see that we are here standing in solidarity with them. They need to see it. Those people who are making choices between heating and eating, they need to see what's going on, and they need to see that People's Assembly is here to represent them. There's another reason why we're here, because during this cost of living crisis, one company named P&O has decided that this is the time to sack 800 of their workers with no notice via Zoom and telling them this is their last day of work. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Are you not angry? Is it not what happens to one can happen to all? Is that not what we're saying? I am furious, and we should all be furious, because an injury to one is an injury to all. So when I say P&O, you say shame on you. And please, I don't want quiet chanting today. Say it with your whole chest. I want them over there to be able to hear you. You ready? Are you ready? Okay. P&O!
Shame on you!
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 Listen, it's important for those striking workers to see what we're doing here. And I have to tell you, there's around 30 protests going on around the country. And one of the features of this campaign is the campaign for those striking workers. So you know what, let's go again. P&O!
Shame on you!
P&O!
Shame on you!
P&O!
Shame on you!
And you know, this was a thing that could have been averted. You know, Barry Gardner did have a bill, and the Tories voted it down. They voted against it. This could have averted this crisis, so we need to remember that. We need to move on. And I want to introduce you to a dear friend of mine who's a fantastic activist. Her name is Paula, and she's from Disabled People Against the Cuts. Please make some noise!
Let's start with a chant, shall we? When I say Tory, you say out. Tory!
Out!
Tory!
Out!
Tory, Tory, Tory!
Out!
Now you need to say this loud and clear, because we need to turn this summer into the summer of discontent. We need a mass mobilisation in every village, in every town, in every city. Let's turn what's happening now with the cost of living into their poll tax. If we could get rid of one Tory government with a Thatcher government, we could get rid of this government. Let's turn this anger into action. Who is with us? Spread the word and let's start mobilising. Yesterday, on the 1st of April, the government brought in yet another cut for disabled people. They cut the warm home discount for 300,000 disabled people on disability living allowance, personal independence payments and attendance allowance. On the 1st of October, when the energy price cap will rise again, that is when that cut will come in. Johnson? And this is a message to Senate. Don't get too comfortable in California, because we're going to turf you out of the Treasury. And he needs to be back here sorting this bloody mess out, don't you agree? Because we've had enough. Last week in my local area, down in Bromley, we had a 73-year-old lady on, she's only on a state pension. Her neighbour hadn't seen her for 3 days. She found that she'd been sitting in the dark for 3 days because she had no money for her key meter. She was cold, she was hungry, and she was thirsty. She can't afford to pay these increases, we can't afford to pay these increases. But for disabled people, for older people, for low-income workers, for everyone, what we've had is 12 years of austerity. What we've had is 2 years of a horrendous pandemic. This government are killing people. Let's say it for what it really is. They are murderers.
They are murderers.
They are attacking our human rights. And we've got to make sure that we hit this government back with their police and crime bill. But this has got to be said loud and clear. Disabled people are in horrendous debt with the energy companies already. Shame on the energy companies for this. We are seeing disabled people chased by bailiffs for money they haven't got. We are seeing councils chasing disabled people that are having to pay extortionate social care charges. They're being chased for money they haven't got for social care. Well, this is what this government needs to do. And this is what we demand. We demand a fully funded social care system, free at the point of need, paid for by general taxation. To this government, make care fair. Just before they went on their Easter breaks, the government voted through the care cap, and you're going to see older people having to sell their homes, a care cap of £86,000. The government needs to reverse this cap. We say, make care fair. Not only 2 weeks ago, we were instrumental in bringing the 3rd United Nations Conventions of the Rights of Disabled People's report. Disabled people throughout the UK have said this message loud and clear to the government. They have said to the government, you're making us expendable. You think we're disposable. Well, this is a message to this fucking government. We are not disposable. We are not expendable. And you can expect a summer of Deepak pushing you back. But we need all of you with us. And this is a message to Johnson. We know you're frightened of disabled people. Well, you bloody better be, because we're going to fight you back till we get you out of number 10. But we need you guys with us. The only way we will push this government back is a mass, united mobilisation. Nurse, low-income worker, disabled person, older people, we need to unite, we need to fight, and we need to get this government out. Now let's make this the summer of discontent. And the last chant, when I say Tory, you say out. Tory, out. Tory, out. Tory, Tory, Tory. Out. On behalf of disabled people against cuts, solidarity.
Wow, another barnstorming speech from Paula there. Nothing short of what we expected. Thank you, Paula. Solidarity to Deepak. Our next speaker is not the usual type of speaker you'd expect at a political event. But with People's Assembly, we like to change it up a bit. So our next speaker is actually Welsh comedy writer Steve Parry. Can you give him a round of applause, please?
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name's Steve. I think I ought to make that clear right at the start, just in case a few people at the back are thinking, fucking hell, that bloke from Simply Red's let himself slip. What's he doing at a cost of living crisis demo? But I can tell you, mate, I come to you with a message from Mick Hucknall that money is too tight to mention. Now here we are, Downing Street is just over there, and this week the first of the fines were delivered to people who were present at the Downing Street parties. Now, we say Boris Johnson tells us that he didn't know anything about it, doesn't he? Well, I've got a question in that case. How unpopular do you have to be to not get invited to a party at your own house? I mean, let's give him the benefit of the doubt, shall we? Let's give Johnson the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps he didn't know about the parties. Perhaps he didn't hear them, on account of his wallpaper being so loud. Oh, but ladies and gentlemen, I need that. That's crucial. That's got all the gold on it. But, I am sick, as I'm sure you are, of our lives being dictated and controlled by a bunch of Tories at parties, Yeah. I don't want my life controlled by a bunch of Tories at a dinner party, unless I'm invited. But the chances of that are pretty slim, to be honest with you, because you know what? I am an old-fashioned socialist, ladies and gentlemen. Have we got any other socialists here? Oh, it's good to be amongst friends. You know what? Because, you can tell an old-fashioned socialist, there's something about us that you can always define us by. And that's that we ruin dinner parties. Oh, yes, we do. And I've got a poem for you, ladies and gentlemen. I've written something about the perils of being a socialist at a dinner party. If you're planning on having a dinner party, take some advice and don't invite me. I may seem the model of the perfect house guest, but after a few I can't give it a rest. The first course of small talk is usually fine, but once I've moved on to my fourth glass of wine, it is really just a matter of time before I start ranting about Palestine. Oh, some familiar cheers there. Next up is the main course, or what I call round two. It's full-bodied red now, vintage Trotsky and Mao. I spy the frown on her brow, yet on I plough. We're served salmon en croûte, it's a generous portion, yet my appetite's piqued by a row on abortion. I really should have taken precautions. I got trapped with a bloke quoting the King James Version. As the host prepares afters, I'm kind of distracted by a toff in red stripes, rosy cheeks and blue jacket. Works in the city and makes the right packet. I call it out as a disgusting racket. To my surprise, the poor rich bloke can't hack it. Still, I drink more wine, go on about Blair's war crimes, Thatcher shutting coal mines, those people who have wind chimes. Why won't this knobhead give me a line? So I give him both barrels on his type's greed and their thieving. I don't notice the groans or irregular breathing. As the medics descend, I show no signs of appeasing, until my wife grabs my arm and says, "Come on, Steve, we're leaving." We can't go yet, I insist. It's just a little light drama. It's only a Tory in cardiac trauma. Now who shares my views on that twat Keir Starmer? The host makes it clear I'm persona non grata. So that's my dinner party tale. And one fact remains true. I've not had dessert at a friend's house since 2002. There we are, that's socialists at dinner parties, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before I go, it seems like everyone who's been up here today has had a go at getting a chant going, because, that's why we're here. It's a protest. We need to have a chant. We need to find something that defines this movement. And I thought, as I'm here to add a little bit of light relief, I'd try and combine my favourite joke with a chant about today. So we'll see if it works. If it doesn't, I apologise. Just remember the good bits and keep the good fight up, ladies and gentlemen, because this is my chant, okay? After me. Penguins, pelicans, electric and gas can all stick their massive bills up their ass. Right, we'll try that again. All right, with me this time. Penguins, pelicans, electric gas. Oh, we've improved it. Did you hear that? Rather than we can all stick their massive bills up their arse, they can all stick their motherfucking bills up their arse. Gives that a little bit more kick, so we'll try that one more time. Ladies and gentlemen, penguins, pelicans, electric gas can all stick their motherfucking bills up their ass. Penguins, pelicans, electric gas can all stick their motherfucking bills up their ass. Ladies and gentlemen, the struggle continues. We'll work on that one. Thank you very much. Keep the fire up and solidarity with the P&O workers. Thank you.
Make some noise for Steve. I'm now proud to introduce our next speaker. He's a stalwart of the movement. He is the Assistant General Secretary of the RMT, which has been at the forefront of fighting for the sacked workers of P&O, for the underground workers on the trains. Make some noise for Eddie Dempsey.
Thank you, brothers and sisters and comrades. Last month, the whole country watched in amazement as 800 workers, seafarers, were sacked by a Zoom link on ferries across the country. And this union in the RMT, we instructed our members to stay on board those ships and not leave. And a paramilitary organisation of security guards with balaclavas and handcuffs were in the wings waiting and boarded those ships and dragged our members off of those ships. And the only reason that people saw what happened in P&O was because the entire trade union movement and the People's Assembly got behind the RMT and joined us in our protests on the Saturday after the sackings occurred. Dave Ward from the CWU was up in Blackpool when he heard about what happened, and he made it down to Dover in record time. We were wondering how he did it so fast, whether or not he posted himself down there, but that's another story. In London Underground, we've got a situation where they're trying to take 400 million in cuts out of our members in those jobs there. They're trying to take 100 million out of our pension scheme in London Underground. They're trying to take 2 billion out of the budget for the railways in this country. And that's not an insignificant figure. It's got nothing to do with the recovery from COVID, because when they privatised this railway system and it didn't work and we had disasters, they had to take the infrastructure back into a form of public ownership. And in that period, they racked up 25 billion in debts. And it costs 2 billion every year to service those debts. That 2 billion they're trying to take off of railway workers is purely to protect bondholders. And who are they? They're the banks. It's Goldman Sachs again and JP Morgan. Just like in 2008, they're trying to rob the working class to look after the banks. And I tell you what, we're not having it. And next week, the RMT, on a war footing, is going to be moving into a national dispute on the railways. And we're going to need the support of all the trade unionists in this country and the People's Assembly. Because there's no one in that building apart from a few honourable exceptions that are going to come to our aid. It's going to be on the organisation of the working class we defeat these people. And let me tell you this, the shocking rise in the gas prices shows us one thing. Our economy is completely unbalanced. We are at the mercy of every breeze that ruffles the markets in the world. And when such a thing happens, it's the working class who are thrown into chaos. So we have got to nationalise the energy industry, and we've got to use it to build a transition to a greener future in this country and jobs for people. We live on a planet with finite resources, brothers and sisters, and capitalism is a system that's based on infinite growth. So either capitalism is going to win and civilization dies, or socialism is going to win and humanity lives. And I'm for socialism. And we can't stop there. We have to nationalise the banks so we can fund a rebalancing of this economy, so we can build council houses, homes for people, instead of building houses in the private market and creating just another opportunity for landlords and spivs to speculate on. We can change the way this country is run, and it's going to take us to do it. So I want to say thank you to the People's Assembly who've stood beside us and will stand beside you. And to everyone who's come out here today, and to all the workers who are in struggle up and down this country. Let's get on the front foot. We're going for a national strike. Let's all get together and fight for socialism. Solidarity.
Make some noise for Eddie. Are you guys riled up enough? Nah, I can't hear you. When I say Boris Johnson, you say ow, ow, ow. Boris Johnson! Ow, ow, ow. Boris Johnson! Ow, ow, ow. Boris Johnson! Ow, ow, ow. Now our next speaker is speaking about the NHS, so I want to welcome her with a chant. So when I say who's the NHS, you tell them who's the NHS. It's our NHS, by the way. Who's NHS? Our NHS! Who's NHS? Our NHS! Who's NHS? Our NHS! Who's NHS? Our NHS! Make some noise for Alaya Burke from NHS Star Voices!
This government proves itself to be more far removed from the majority of people in this country. With every policy announcement, every scandal, every shambolic photo opportunity. Now, seeing Rishi Sunak fail to pay for a can of Coke using a contactless card machine, I mean, it was funny, but it was also quite disturbing. This is the millionaire, this is the guy who makes decisions about how the majority of people in this country are going to budget over this year. And this is a year where we're going to see 8.1% rises in our bills, huge spiraling costs for working class families. They're so out of touch. They've got absolutely no idea that people are going to be struggling so much. You know, apparently the Chancellor set out to try and make things easier for working class families by lowering taxes. You know, and he had this plan to try and make things easier. Analysis from the Institute of Public Policy Research has very unsurprisingly shown that this is not what his spring statement reveals. What it does reveal is that the poorest 20% of households will face rising costs of £550 this year. Now there will be national insurance. There will be changes to the national insurance threshold. There'll be a fuel levy cut. Okay, yeah, sure. That means that, you know, generally there'll be a £120 average drop, but that, you know, it still means that, and we know this, it means that the poorest families among us will still have to make choices. We'll still have to make choices between eating food on the table and heating their homes. What the research also reveals, however, is that those who need it least, 20%, you know, the richest 20% in this country will gain an average of £480. The research has shown that it's not the most sensible way of doing things, unsurprisingly. You know, there are ways that policy can be developed that means that working class families don't have to struggle in this way. It's not necessary. You know, it would seem as though the government have a vendetta against working class people, and you can see this in the way that they have destroyed the NHS unnecessarily over years of underfunding, privatisation. They have made it so difficult for the NHS to provide life-saving support to the majority of people in this country. 400 workers a week are leaving the NHS. We're already completely understaffed. They're leaving the NHS. Who's going to look after you guys? Who's going to do it? Who's going to actually get up in the morning and work their asses off, you know, when they don't get enough money? You know, they have to pay charges to park their cars at work, you know. They have to pay for COVID tests. They're not going to do that. That means they're going to come to work, they're going to be sick, you're going to get sick, you know, and this is at a time where they've raised restrictions, and we've got a surge. Again, no fucking surprise. There's loads of people coming down with COVID. People are leaving, you know, it's really not a good time in the NHS, and not a good time for people in general. It's a good metaphor, a good example of the exploitation, the disrespect and the disregard that this government have for working people. So I have to finish now, so I'm going to finish by urging you guys to come out and support workers, support all workers, you know, not just NHS workers, but every single worker strike that you hear about. Come out and support us, support people who are, you know, educating your children, support people who are taking care of your sick families. And it is not just in the interest of the workers, it is in the interest of everyone, all of you. Solidarity.
Thank you so much, Alaya. That was amazing as usual. Thank you for telling us about the issues in the NHS. Listen, everybody, I've got a special treat for you now. You know, Black Lives Matter, since the uprising a couple of years ago, we've seen so many amazing Black Lives Matter activists. And the next speaker is, I'm so proud to announce him, because not only is he an activist, he uses his activism in his art. He's an actor. And in February, our next speaker won a BAFTA for the best short film about racism in the police force. And it fills me with absolute pride to welcome our next speaker, who's gonna be a massive star. His name is Marlon Kemeka. Make some noise!
Thank you, everyone. In the 1845 book, The Conditions of the Working Class in England, Friedrich Engels writes that social murder is when the political class pushes the working classes into a position which ultimately leads to an early and unnatural death. Does that sound familiar to you lot? Yes. So by that metric, the Conservatives are guilty of murder. On average, 8,000 people die every year because of poverty, because they can't pay their energy bills. 8,000 people. The Conservatives know this, yet are doing nothing. In fact, they're going to add to the number of people who die, just like they did with austerity, and COVID, and Grenfell, and Windrush, and homelessness. The Conservatives are guilty of murder! Energy bills have risen by £700. Energy companies' profits have risen to £900 per second.
Shame!
Something else rose yesterday. Now, I know this might sound like a bad April Fool's joke, but yesterday, our MPs got a pay rise of £2,000 per year. That means their annual salary is £84,000 per year. In addition to that, some of our MPs can claim their energy bills as expenses, whilst the rest of us are going to have to choose between heating and eating. The Conservatives are guilty of murder! So we've come here today to protest and demand changes. Oh, but I forgot. Priti Patel's Police, Crime, Courts and Sentencing Bill aims to make protesting illegal, which means they're not only taking away our human rights, but they're literally taking away our lives as well. The Conservatives are guilty of murder. The Conservatives are guilty of murder. Let me hear ya!
Conservatives are guilty of murder.
Don't forget they're guilty of murder. So, we have the worst government and the worst opposition at the worst possible time. Actually, that's a lie, sorry. We have no opposition. The opposition is me. The opposition is you. The opposition is us. We are the opposition. We have to fight for our rights. Boris Johnson is not going to fight for our rights. Sir Keir Starmer is not going to fight for our rights. We are going to be the ones who fight, and we are going to be the ones who win. So how do we win? Well, first of all, we wouldn't have a cost of living crisis if it wasn't the Conservatives. It is an ideological choice, not an inevitability. They are going to try and lie to us and convince us that their hands are tied behind their back, or that the problem is Putin. No. The problem is the Conservative Party. The problem is the Labour Party. The problem is the energy companies. The problem is greed. The problem is inhumanity. The problem is capitalism. Also, stop putting these fake fraudulent MPs, commentators and celebrities on a pedestal. I mean, where are they today? Are they with you on the streets? Are they going to find it hard to pay their energy bill? Are they going to be queuing up at the food bank? They have sold you out. They are insulated from working class life. What we need to do is start celebrating the unjust, the unsung heroes, yeah, who are out there putting their lives on the line to bring down this oppressive system. We need an intersectional working class revolution. That means we don't blame our neighbours, we blame our oppressors. We don't punch down, we punch up. We celebrate our similarities, but equally we celebrate our differences. We don't allow the likes of Priti Patel, Boris Johnson, Tommy Robinson and Kate Hopkins to divide us. It means I'm black and you're white, but guess what? We're both working class. It means you're cisgender and you're transgender, but guess what? You're both working class. It means you're Muslim and you're Jew, but you're both working class. Once we utilise our collective power, that's when we can bring down this oppressive system. And I'm angry, and we all should be angry at the injustice taking place here. The French get angry, they see a 4% rise in their energy bills. We stay placid, we see a 54% increasing ours. What is that about? Reclaim your anger, reclaim your dignity, reclaim your working class solidarity. Speak to your neighbours, your friends, your workplace. Let people know what this government's doing, because the mainstream media is complicit in not providing us with the full picture. Yeah? Join or create a mutual aid group. Join People's Assembly, Sisters Uncut, kill the bill, be a school governor. Volunteer at your local food bank. Help your community in a way that will help you, because nobody is coming to save us. So we have to save ourselves. Councillors and MPs, if they're not pushing for policies that help the working class and marginalised people in your area, then hold your vote hostage. If they ain't working for you, do not vote for them. And at the next election, vote independent or spoil your ballot. We must find the courage, strength and vernacular to speak truth to power, whether that's your corrupt MP, incompetent councillor, abusive police officers or problematic employer. Speak up and speak out for those who can't. Sign and share petitions, protest and march, and if they do ban the right to protest, find the strength to come out on the streets and continue to protest, even if that means civil disobedience, or we call for a nationwide general strike. We must not comply with their draconian demands, and if we don't do this, then it means you're complicit in upholding this murderous system.
Find them who they work for.
I'm going to end here with a Fred Hampton quote. Everything would be alright if everything was put back into the hands of the people. So we have to fight to put everything back into the hands of the people. Thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You gotta give him another round of applause for that. Come on. I told you this was a special treat for you. That was amazing. Marlon Kemeka, look out for him, follow him on social media. This guy is going to be the next big thing, I promise you. One more round of applause for that, please, people. Oh my gosh. Listen, People's Assembly, and Marlon said it in his speech. You know, you can join People's Assembly. I'm here, and I'm from BLM Coalition. Marlon's here, he's a BLM, Kill the Bill, and all kind of activist and actor. You know, we're all part of People's Assembly. It's one of the biggest platforms you can join because it's got lots of different trade unions, lots of different organisations, and we all have a seat at the table. I think, given some of the things that Marlon just said about the state of our politics, the government, the lack of opposition, we need something else. And at least you know that People's Assembly is well established and trusted on the left for many, many years. So find your local groups and join in and support the actions and spread the word. And thank you, People's Assembly, for putting on this event today. Can we give People's Assembly a round of applause? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Miranda from Extinction Rebellion. Make some noise.
Hi everyone, I'm really nervous now because that's a really hard speech to follow from Marlon. And I've just learnt that Helen from the GMB, who used to be a nurse, was my nurse when I was 13 and got hit by a car. She nursed me many, many years ago, so it's quite a special experience to have just had. But I'm here from XR as a climate activist, but also as a mother, because I'm doing everything I can every day to fight for the future I want for my children. And I know right now their future is not guaranteed. But more than that, I'm here and fighting every day of my life because my heart is breaking for the children all over the world who are suffering and dying now from poverty, climate breakdown and war. Children are dying now and will continue to suffer. Their suffering in this country will only worsen with this cost of living scandal. Because it's not a crisis, it's a scandal, it's a political choice. I find it hard to articulate the anger I feel at those that failed to listen for years when they were called upon to facilitate the radical changes that we need to protect life and well-being. They didn't invest in renewables or transition away from fossil fuels and create good jobs. They haven't reorganised the economy so it serves the interests of the planet and its people. Instead, those in power, those with influence, have protected the profits of the few, while the majority of life on Earth is seen as a resource to plunder. And that is why we're in this situation now with crisis upon crisis upon crisis. And people are waiting for things to get back to normal. They think, oh, COVID, we'll wait for it to get back to normal. The war in Ukraine, we'll wait for things to get back to normal. The cost of living crisis, or scandal, as it is more accurately called, we'll wait for it to get back to normal. Things are not going back to normal. We are just going to see crisis after crisis after crisis because our system is completely broken. And the big polluters continue to record profits. BP recorded its highest ever profits last year, while Shell made $14.1 billion. Our government chooses to protect the profits of earth-destroying companies and ensures the survival of companies whose fossil fuels pollute our cities, poison us and our children, whilst committing us to climate breakdown and paying double for our energy bills. The government has no mandate for any of this, and we must not consent. We know from research that low-income families in London go without food in order to send money back to families suffering the effects of climate breakdown. All these problems are interwoven, they are not separate. Committing ourselves to a life free of oil and gas would mean establishing a more peaceful world. By decarbonising our economies, we can take back power from the warmongers and change course, averting climate breakdown and collapse. Rapid climate action is also action in the name of peace and justice for all. There's a lot to be angry, sad or scared about right now, but there is also hope. Not for saving this doomed system, but for creating a new one built on justice and equality and genuine democracy. Everyone standing here today represents that hope. We are the change that we need to see in the world. On the 9th of April, Extinction Rebellion are asking everyone to step up, to refuse to be a bystander, while our world is sold and burned by a greedy minority. We will be meeting at Hyde Park Corner from 10 a.m. and will be in rebellion for a further 9 days. and you're all invited to join us. We'd love to see you on the streets with us next week.
Thank you very much, Miranda. It's always a pleasure to have you here. I just want to inform you that I'm hearing Jeremy's on his way. So he is going to be here. Don't worry about that. Shall we do some chanting? Let's liven it up a bit. Tory, Tory, Tory!